We hear a lot of perspectives on the Mankind podcast. Inclusion of a guest is not an endorsement of their views, and the opinions expressed here do not always represent the mission or values of the Mankind Project USA.
How many folks never find the connection that they long for in our communities, not because they don't want to, but because the ways we build can make or break belonging? One of the things I've learned over years of men's work is that belonging isn't something that I can take for granted or assume. It's something that I have to create consciously. Sometimes that means slowing down. Sometimes it means asking instead of assuming. And it always means realizing that the barriers keeping men isolated aren't always emotional. They're physical, they're neurological, they're cultural, and often they're invisible. Today's conversation is important to me because it's about expanding our understanding of what brotherhood really means. I'm joined by several leaders from the barrier-free movement inside the Mankind Project. Men who are living with very different abilities, with traumatic brain injuries, neurodivergence, and other visible and invisible differences. Together, they share what it feels like to finally find a place where they don't have to perform or explain themselves or inspire anyone. They simply get to be men among men. You'll hear stories of courage, laughter, friendship, grief, and a challenge for all of us to stop assuming what another man needs and start asking. This conversation is about ability and disability. It's about awareness and humility. And ultimately, it's about creating communities where every man knows that he belongs. For this episode, because there are men in the episode who have very different speaking abilities, I've included a full transcript in the show notes, so feel free to read along. Welcome to the Mankind Podcast. Hey, everybody, it's Boysen Hodgson. Welcome back to the Mankind Podcast, the show where we are breaking the molds of modern manhood to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that there is indeed more than one way to be a man. Today, I get the honor and the pleasure and the fun, and there's going to be laughter, to hang out with a bunch of guys from the barrier-free movement in the Mankind Project USA. We've had some engagement with this topic in the past, but the barrier-free movement is about engaging men with all kinds of different abilities, and visible and invisible, to do the kind of work that we do in the Mankind Project. They've been going for a number of years. There's going to be a training this fall, but I thought we would bring together some of the men from this group. And I'm going to say names and then ask everybody to say hello as we go around the horn. And then I'll tell you a little bit about some of the guys that are here. So Mike Merino, say hello.
Hello.
And you're going to have to learn to track voices as we go. Dee Spitler, say hello.
Good morning. Hello.
Craig Tennant, say hello.
Hello.
And now Art Patterson, say hello.
Hello.
And Paul Jerde, say hello.
Great to see you.
Great to see you, too. Marc Sage, say hello.
Hello, everybody.
Those are the guys that we've got in the room. Let me tell you a little bit more about each of them just briefly. Marc Sage, who you just heard from at the end, is a veteran of high-stakes enterprise consulting. He spent decades navigating the professional IT landscape and finance while operating behind a complex dual mask of physical mass and psychiatric suppression. After 14 years of personal growth work, major acceleration occurred in 2014 when he attended the New Warrior Training Adventure. He then embarked on a 12-year journey of radical self-discovery, shedding over 200 pounds and dismantling the survival mechanisms he used to hide behind his bipolar ADHD, CPTSD, and autistic identity. Today, he combines his analytic background with a profound commitment to emotional work. He has completed 42 staffings of the New Warrior Training Adventure, partly to advocate for the neurodivergent community and explore the delicate balance between keeping oneself safe and living authentically in a neurotypical world. Art Patterson, who's been on the podcast before, is a gay, Black, differently abled man who had a vision to create a new warrior training adventure, Gateway Training, designed to include men of varying physical abilities and challenges, including those involving mobility, vision, and hearing. In 2017, Art, with the help of Greg Gondran, full leader from the Texas community, South Central, offered the first Challenge Warrior weekend. Later, they reached out to Jim Molinos and Dee Spitler, who's with us today. In 2019, at Sleeping Dog Ranch, which is Dee Spitler's family's ranch in Arizona, the first barrier-free NWTA was held. Since then, they have expanded the vision beyond an NWTA to what is now called the Barrier-Free Movement, with the intention of raising awareness within the Mankind Project and outside of it to serve men of all abilities with leadership training, site and facilities accessibility, support groups, and mobile trainings. Thank you for being here, Art. Paul Jerde began doing men's work because the guy he worked for had an eye group that he attended weekly. He is a graduate of the land of my grandfather. So again, there's a lot of South Central dudes in the room here today. In September 2006, and Mike Merino just shook his head and said, Greater Carolinas. The things that stand out are twofold. The heat was intense, and the man in the bunk above me had severe gas and farted all night. Welcome Paul Jerde, who's that's the energy Paul's gonna bring to the space today, introducing me to the idea that men's work can be messy. 2 years later, on June 14th, his life changed forever. He was riding his bike and was run over by a car. There was so much blood, the ambulance driver thought he was dead. He had suffered a traumatic brain injury. He now uses a wheelchair and can walk slowly with someone's help. His speech is affected. Sometimes is very difficult for him to talk. Luckily, he can still say the F word, and every Wednesday night he hosts an I group. He's working on growing his postcard design business. And when you see the video of this, I'll have Paul share his F-bomb that he brought with him. And Mike Merino. Mike Merino is a facilitator for open men's groups in the Mankind Project, including groups for men who identify as GBTQ and disabled. He has been part of MKP since 2016. He lives in Hendersonville, North Carolina, with his service dog, Cody, and is formerly visually impaired athlete. Mike's done some pretty amazing stuff, and my favorite story of Mike is running through airports with Mike. People just clear the path. So guys, welcome. Thank you for being here. Craig Tennant is here as well. Craig, I don't have a good bio for you. I know that you're the former finance coordinator for South Central area, and you've been involved in MKP for how long?
Since December of 2010, when I initiated in South Central, and met Paul Jerde shortly afterwards in my I group. And Paul and I have been dear friends for the last 15 or 16 years. And so Paul and I kind of band together on the barrier-free movement, and he supports me and I support him.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I am grateful for all you guys being here. How I'd like to kind of frame our conversation here is to have each of you tell a short story or an indicator of what is it like to have belonging in the barrier-free space. I've heard each of you speak to this in some way, and I think I'll go to Art first. So Art, what's it like to be in the space of the barrier-free movement?
What it is for me is I can be my true authentic self. And I can now. Sometimes I wish I was a handicap, or sometimes I say I'm not there because I'm a speaking person. And they let me get that out of my system and put a button up to say, here's what I see in you, a leader. Um, there's been times that I said, okay, I'll open the door for young guys you'll go through and I will the other way, but they won't let me go the other way. Um, and it's just a space that I can be real and not be the inspirational person, but just be among guys.
Yes. Space where you just get to be among the guys and be a man among men with your brothers. Thank you so much, Art. Mike, how about you? Tell us a story about belonging and barrier free.
Yeah, so this was my first leadership experience. I remember Dee Spitler came to me and said, "We made a mistake. You're going to be on the accountability team." And I was a pretty young staffer, and that's for senior guys. And yeah, just being out front was really cool. And and I nailed it. And so that's just kind of sparked my leadership growth. The other piece what I like too is there's a collective effort by the men to remove the barriers, to cross over the bridge, because I find that I always have to figure out ways to accommodate myself in a particular environment. And I love it that it's more of a collective effort. And so that's what good for me.
Thank you very much. Mark, let's go over to you. What's it like to be in the barrier free space?
So I have a similar dream that Dewey has, that every weekend is safe for barrier free. And that's thought of every weekend. And my story on why, about a year ago, one of the processes I shared about my autism. And 4 days later at the homecoming, a man looks at me, comes over on the other side of the room and practically breaks my ribs with a huge hug. Um, and said that made his weekend and that made it safe, when I owned that. So, yeah, for the men coming.
Thank you. And Paul, tell us a story about being in a barrier free container.
Everyone, every time, every day, I and out place because I I in was I really wish I could walk, and the movement makes me feel like I belong to someone.
Thank you. The movement makes you feel like you belong to something. Thank you so much. And Craig or Dewey, well, let's go to Dee first. So you tackled some pretty monumental stuff to help create the physical space for this to happen. What has the transformation been like in your life as you've been a builder for this movement, quite literally?
Well, my history is we call ourselves get shit done guys. And I love building stuff, and I've got this funky ranch. Somebody said it's funky and spiritual at the same time. And somebody reached out to me, Greg Gondrin and Jim Molinas, and said, "Hey, we've got this thing going on." And I said, "Well, great. Let me meet this Art Patterson guy." And as soon as I met him, I fell in love with him. And I said, my mission in life is I create community and harmony by living and encouraging lives of passion and purpose. One of the great things that happens on a men's weekend on the New Warrior Training Adventure is helping men discover their mission, or what I also call their purpose of being on the planet. And so when I heard Art's vision about what he wanted to create for men with different abilities, I just I said, absolutely. No doubt about it. Let me see what I can do to figure this out. So at my ranch, I got a group of guys, other warriors that just all chipped in and showed up, and we started building some ramps and adding grab bars and building things to accommodate men with different abilities. And I've been around it with my dad. My dad has neuropathy and has been in a chair for the last 5 or 6 years. So I learned a lot about what I needed to do to make adaptable space. But what I've learned from getting involved with these men is that I recently experienced some death and some loss in my immediate family. And these men were the ones that were there with me constantly because they taught me that loss is something to be cherished, something to be loved on. And they had no problem whatsoever staying connected with me because they understand loss, I think, more than anybody. So it's been a great experience, and I just enjoy being with these men. They make me laugh all the time. So,
Thank you. And Craig, you've been very close and engaged, especially with Paul through the I group. So, in an ongoing way, what does it mean for you to be with the movement? Hey, it's Boysen. Sorry to interrupt. I'm jumping in with an invitation. If you've listened to a single episode of this podcast, you've heard me or Brandon talk about the Mankind Project. It's a global community committed to one simple but very complicated idea. We're men helping other men to become better men. One of the ways we make shift happen is through a weekend rite of passage called the New Warrior Training Adventure. It's not a retreat, it's not a workshop, it's an intensive, it's a digital detox, it's a crazy ride, it's a uniquely life-changing space. And it's a chance to step away from the regular world, tell the truth about where you are, and discover what's possible, surrounded by men, some of whom have been right where you are right now. And if you're a friend, a partner, a wife, a mom, or a grandma who loves a man, maybe he's waiting for an invitation. Share it with him. You can learn more at mkpusa.org.
It's a great question. I've spent a lot of my life running from, running to, but always running. And as I got involved in the Mankind Project, I began to slow down. And then I met Paul, and Paul in particular has helped me to be more present, to slow down, to pay attention, to be okay in space where something's not happening. And that's how I got involved in the barrier-free movement, was really to support Paul. But it's been about 8 years since that started, and I've been involved with these other men, and every time we're together, two things happen. I learn about my privilege, and I learn about another man's perspective that's very different than mine. And in the last 8 years, my ableness has decreased physically as I've gone from my mid-50s into my 60s, and I've had issues with my body. So I'm now more able to identify with being differently abled. So there's a lot of blessing that I receive being, first with Paul, but really with all of these great men that I've been involved with.
Thank you. I heard Dee say, and I've heard a couple other men say in these circles, in these kinds of spaces, that we're all, no matter who we are, temporarily abled in the way that we move through the world. Thank you so much. So, what are some of the things that what makes it different? So what are some of the things that make the barrier-free movement different? And I think that I'll go back to Art to start this out, because you've recognized, you and I have had a lot of conversations about accessible space. So talk about What does it mean to create this work accessibly?
It means that it's true. We say that every man is welcome. And we mean what we say. Every man is accepted and welcome here. What makes us different is we can laugh and cry about our disability in the same time. We laugh about it and tell our emotions. Read the laws that we feel that, for me is my speech impairment and what I can think it understand me. But it's that warrior listening that we teach about and we
Yes.
have to put in practice. So
Yes.
I think it's just being able to work through our differences. And I do work with the anger of my speech. And when I got out of my system, it was healing. That was the healing part. So yeah.
Thanks, Art. Thank you. And I'll open it to see who else has a thought about what are some of the things that we might take for granted. So when I just heard from Art is when we say warrior listening, now we really mean it. And I kind of heard that in what you said, Craig, as well. Is like this work invites us all to slow down in profound ways.
The one thing more is my man me slow down and be patient because I was so used to well the world around 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 hurrying.
Yes. Yeah, everything's in a hurry. Slow down, be more patient.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you.
For me, there's just a lot of little things. Like, for example, chairs. When we all sit around in a circle, and then everybody gets up, and there's just a minefield of chairs. And men just being aware that, oh, well, we need to leave paths for people in wheelchairs or people like myself to actually be able to get around. And they're just little things like that that I witnessed that I can bring back to the other New Warrior Training ventures that I'm on. So just things like chairs, something small. There's a lot of little tiny things that I just noticed that, and I'm able to better speak up about it in other arenas. So that's what is for me.
Thank you. Yeah. Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, and I'll add.
Yeah, to piggyback on that one.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Dee.
Yeah, the New Warrior Training Adventure, really, we don't change anything. It's the same type of weekend, the same outline that we do for all the other ones that happen across the country, around the world. The only real difference on what we call the barrier-free New Warrior Training Adventure is that we do slow it down a little bit. We do create a little bit more time for breaks and getting in and out of bed and all of that. And we watch for the chair movement and leave openings there. And we also bring in men, what we call participant men of service. So we will interview a man that wants to participate in the weekend, we'll do an pre-weekend interview, find out what their needs are, and negotiate based on what they tell us what their needs are. Instead of us assuming, we ask, and we had that conversation, and then we provide a man, if need be, to just kind of pay attention to that man throughout the weekend and be available. It's a beautiful experience, and what we've learned is those men that make that connection really, really have a deep connection with each other. So those are just subtle changes that we make on the weekend. Otherwise, it's similar to the thousands of other weekends that we do. So wanted to add that.
Thank you. Yeah. Craig.
Yeah, thank you. Really along the same lines, which is, although the weekends are the same, on a non-barrier-free weekend, we may say, okay, men, stand up. And the barrier-free work has me pay attention to the language that I use and to say, here's men who may be using a wheelchair and they're not in a position to stand up. Or men walk over there, but if men have limited vision, they may not just be able to walk over in that direction. I've been on a barrier-free weekend where we had a man whose physical difference had to do with hearing loss. And so we had a sign language interpreter all the way through the process to support that man. And that required all of us as the staff to really slow down, pay attention, keep in mind the interpreter was part of the process so the man could understand what we were telling him in what we were doing.
Thank you. How about it, Marc? How about in the kind of neurodivergent space? I could tell stories, but I want to hear, what is it like for you now that this, as you said, you've outed something in the project, and I judge that there are more and more men who are coming forward to say, yeah, here's the difference. You may not see it, but here's the difference. What's it like for you?
So wearing different masks and having an opportunity to take it off, I'm not going to say feels good, or it's a difference, noticeable difference in my body, in my mind. Um, and there aren't many places I feel safe doing that. Um, and from a leadership place, and just recently, like last year, a leader was going through a piece with the staff and specifically shifted and said, and here's for the people who think differently about this, who are just introverts. Introvert is a neurotypical word, doesn't cover the way an autistic man shows up quietly or other differences.
Thank you. I believe that the work that we do in the Mankind Project, like writ large, right, is about awareness, growing our awareness about understanding differences between us. And every conversation that I have around barrier free, we're instantly in cross-cultural conversation. We're instantly in, how can I be aware of all the things that I take for granted? How can I invite men into relationship where they have the opportunity, as you said, Dee, to actually say, here's what I need. Here are the kind of things that are different. So, where to now? What's there is a barrier free or a hybrid event coming this year, and I think one of the things that Art and I have talked about is, how can we expand the movement? So what are some of the things that you men are interested in doing to see this movement expand?
We definitely want to invite men. We've got our next weekend, we call them weekends, but New Warrior Training Adventure is scheduled for December the 11th through the 13th. In a facility south of Houston called Land of My Grandfathers. And that facility, they have actually been raising money, and they've done a lot of accessibility improvements to the site putting in new paved sidewalks and bathroom accommodations and bunks and so forth. So we're really excited to go and use that site. We've got a great website that's got FAQs, pictures of the site, all of that. That website is barrierfree.mkpusa.org. I don't know, maybe Boysen, you can put that on the
It'll be in the show notes
screen
for
somewhere
sure.
sooner or later. But and it's open to all men, whether you're disabled at this point or what we call temporarily able. Like Craig talked about, that we're all going to get to that point, whether it comes with age, that getting up and down stairs is going to be difficult. Hearing, for me, my hearing's going. I've got a little bit of a speech impediment too that I used to shy away from. It kept me small, kept me away from stepping into leadership roles until I finally said, it is what it is. I'm going to breathe through it. And these men have been teaching me and mentoring me with all that. So we definitely, the weekend, what we call a hybrid, it's open for men with various disabilities, but also open to all men. We want a good mixture. We've done that twice before, and it's been very, very successful in the relationships that are ongoing that develop after that. It's beautiful relationships. So we just want to create space for all men. We also have some open circles that are Zoom, and Mike Merino could talk about that. He runs those, and Art supports him. So Mike, maybe if you want to mention the data on the open circles, and all men are invited, whether you've been through the weekend or you're part of NKP or not, it's open to all men.
Yeah, thank you, Dee. Yeah, we meet on Zoom twice a month, on Mondays, and but what's not being talked about right now that
Yeah.
I'm hearing is there's a much higher bar of trust that needs to happen. That's the big challenge. So, I mean, just trying to get from my place to an actual weekend, whether I have to fly or plane or whatever, find a ride, and then making sure that my needs are going to be accommodated throughout the weekend, and then I get home. I mean, it's a big task, and I got to trust these men to actually make sure those accommodations are there, and that I'm gonna be taken care of throughout the weekend. And then the other thing too is most people that I find have struggled to reach out to people that look disabled. That there's some type of fear response that people have that prevents them actually from getting into that close relationship with somebody that has a disability. And so I see those two things getting in the way of really opening up the space for men like me.
Mhm. Thank you.
My my so my tribe here is one of my tribes, and another one that I did the New Warrior training adventure as a 32-year-old, and it cracked me open in a way that, my story is the Mankind Project has always been for 50-year-olds and has a general idea how to handle the cracking open and what happens to a man as they do some of the deeper work that's possible in the Mankind Project. Um, it's different for a young warrior, a young neurodivergent, um, and it's something we have gotten better with, and we're going to get better and better with. I think meeting men where they are, younger men especially.
Thank you.
I
I'm,
think
thank you. Go
also,
ahead, Art.
I think also after the weekend, can they get into a local eye group in the facilities accessible, that they can be in eye group? Are you able to provide transportation and all that? So, like, what about isolation? If you want to be in a real eye group or be involved with barrier-free ag group. So there are two choices, you know?
Thank you for that. Yeah, so after the weekend, as all of us have experienced who are in the work, there are groups, and for me, this has been an awareness that's been growing in me for a lot of things that I take for granted, in addition to physical. So I know that the space that we hold iGroup in now is accessible. And in order for that to be true, it's a school, right? So there are a whole lot of men's houses out there where we host iGroups, and a whole lot of spaces where we host men's groups that really don't have the awareness, don't don't take into account the kinds of differences that men may be showing up with. A question that I wanted to bring forward is, and it kind of came up in what Mike was saying, is that um, men might have hesitation about reaching out and having a connection, or making deeper connections to uh, men who have some differences in abilities. So is there advice in the room that you men would want to put forward to say, okay, here's what would be great, and here's what would be not so great?
Where do we start?
Yeah.
uh, so uh, for me, it's about being mindful, because a lot of men have dysfunctional rescuers inside them, and they figure out, okay, I think this man needs this kind of support, and then just do it. And then the other piece is being aware of man's agency. Like, I might do something, might take longer. Don't just jump in and do it for me. There's this
Yeah.
agency that I want to hold on to. And oh yeah, I get this, the caretaker shadows that run amok, and they just cling on to me. And so I have to be really firm and say, this is the support I want, and not just have them think, okay, this is what he needs. And so just ask him what they want. It's pretty easy.
Thank you.
I want to say, well, that me, me, me make a mistake.
Let you make mistakes, Paul?
Yes, it is all I learn. And
So learning, yes. And go ahead, Art. Yes.
I was see a lot of people with this that they got us in one thing. If I have a disability, I must be on the autism scale because, yeah, are you with that group? So a lot of people say, well, you're not intelligent because you're disabled. And that's a lie. I'm sorry. You know, so I think you guys stop putting us in one basket. We are different types of disabilities, a different level of intelligence. So, I mean, I have a disabled body, got a disabled mind, you know. So,
Thank you. Again, it's the
Thank you.
cross cultural, right? It's like we are in cross cultural dialogue here, and how can we get way more sensitive to ask what's needed rather than assuming, to so not rescue, and also not make broad assumptions based on unknowns.
but the
I think
one,
there's something big in the Yeah.
one thing I love, kids will come up to me and ask me, what are you doing
Mm.
for? And kids are put my eyes, and the adults are too scared to say it. And she is so honest. I mean, she came up to me and said, why you talk so funny? I told him I had disability in my brain. It does affect my brain. And he said, well, listen, why not get in the doctor? Maybe he can fix that. I mean, the kids are so honest, you know?
Yes. And maybe there's an invitation to be more like kids in these kinds of conversations and let it get a little bit more messy. Let it be a little bit more inquiry. Yes.
Just what I've learned is just be curious like a little kid and don't hold back. Just have the conversation, because I tell men that what there's always a fear that maybe I'm going to say the wrong thing. I'm going to use the wrong word. You know, do I say disabled? Do I say, you know, what's the terminology for it? And what these men teach me is screw it. It doesn't matter what the word is. The real connection is just the heart to heart connection. Period. You know, if I'm sincere with my relationship, it doesn't matter what the words are. And you know, be curious. And if there's fear, I hate to use 100% guarantee, but I can pretty damn near close to guarantee that there's a wonderful piece of gold on the other side. It's the same thing, like something that you put off doing for years. When you finally do it, you go, shit, why didn't I do that a long time ago? And that's how it is with pushing through that fear to have a conversation with somebody that is different from me. It doesn't matter if it's disability or color or race or anything else. Just have the conversation, make a connection. It's always a blessing on the other side of it once it's done. So I encourage everybody to push through that fear and build a relationship with someone that's different. And I sure have learned and gained a lot from it.
Thanks, T. Paul, were you going to say something?
I want to so they do D Lord do you use to well word school school.
I did not get the last part of that, Paul.
You wanted to tell
thank
Dee not to use the word screw, Paul? Is that right?
No, we're going down that way, are we?
Hey,
Have you been
we
listening on
always
my
do.
Art and I's
Leave it to Paul.
conversation?
Thank you,
We
Paul.
always do. I I appreciate you being clean. Okay.
And the other thing that's true in the barrier-free space is it's humorless. It's absolutely humorless. These men are serious all the time.
Are we talking about
And that's the biggest piece I learned from Art was, you know, he just wants to be regular, have regular conversations like any other dude. So, you know, we will talk about, there is every subject available, so we won't go down there and expose anything. But Art and I have had some very, very unique and serious discussions about all sorts of subjects. So,
Yes.
You know, I would add one thing about, you know, what I think is a good thing to do, particularly if communication is not so much of a challenge for somebody and you're talking to someone who may not communicate in the same way, is I, for a while, had a tendency just to say, "Oh, okay," but I didn't really understand what was being said to me. And these brothers here and others, I don't understand everything that they say when they communicate. And what I've learned, what I've had to get okay with is
Damn it.
just to say, "I didn't understand what you said. Will you say it again?" Because you're important to me and what you say is important
Mhm.
and I want to understand it. And I'll tell you one quick story, which is when I met Paul and we sat in iGroup, he was using a text to speech device in our iGroup. And we'd get to his check-in and he would press the button because he had been typing. And then the computer voice would speak what he said. And shortly after, maybe a year in or so, I said, "Paul, my want is for you to put that down and speak no matter how much time it takes for us to understand you. I want to understand what you have to say." And he stopped using the device shortly thereafter. And sometimes it takes a little bit longer, but I hear his heart when he speaks that.
Thank you.
I had to take a breath after that one. Thank you, Craig. Thank
I
you
have
for
to
that.
step away, but um, thank you, Boysen. Thank you, Dee. Thank you, Craig.
Same,
I
same.
Thanks,
wouldn't
Mark.
be out as far as I am without men like you.
Mark.
Take care,
Thank
everybody.
you. Authenticity, authenticity. Yes, we're inviting men to come out. And the barrier-free movement, I think it really is about the invitation, right? It's about how do we invite all kinds of different men into space where they can experience the transformations that we all have to get as men going through an intentional rite of passage where it's all going to be welcome and every part of you is going to be able to show up. So as we get to the end of our time together, what's our final inquiry here for our conversation?
Well, historically, men showing up and getting involved with Mankind Project has really been one man inviting another man. So that's the number one thing to do. I believe that all of us, pretty much everybody, knows someone in their sphere that has a different ability, whether it's neurodivergent, invisible, non-invisible, or non-visible, and just to push through the fear and have the invitation. We've got the weekend coming up in December. We've got a website that's full of FAQs. We've got the open circle. We're reaching out to different organizations. In Phoenix, Arizona, there's a group called Ability 360 that supports a lot of sports activities, accessible sports. We've had men come through that play basketball, wheelchair basketball. Like I say, we can support just about any men. We've even got, we're not experts, but we've got some experience with PTS. So we don't want, like they will do a pre-weekend interview and make sure that we can serve anybody that comes. And even if you don't do the weekend, if it's not your time, the open circle that Mike runs and Art runs is a great place just to build connection. We're not trying to sell the weekend. We're really trying to do is invite them into community and be in a place that you can have honest conversations, real conversations, and not be judged at whatever you want to say or do or how you show up. And that's the bigger piece. Just enjoying it. Find a place in the room that just you need to express whatever you need to express, some deep feelings, anger, sadness, fear, joy. All of it is all welcome.
Thanks, T.
Yeah, something I'd like to end with. My world is pretty small. I don't drive, and so I mean, basically, I have like 2 square miles that I'm out and about. And a lot of these men, especially with physical disabilities, their world is small. They basically stay in their homes, stay in, and it's going to take more of an effort to invite them out, and feel like they belong. And so it's just Yeah, it's just my world is small and you're not going to see these men. You might actually have to make some more effort and actually draw them out.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike.
I,
Art, please,
I,
Paul, go ahead.
I don't have any question. I want to say you men rock.
You rock too, Paul. Thank you. Art, final words?
Okay. When I first came on my weekend, you told me I'll be doing this, I would laugh in your face and say, hell no, hell no. But like the years, doing my work, of all, I grew up where everybody put me in the car, put me in the car, put me in the car. And it's like the man guy said, so I put out in the car. And I have been blessed by these men. I did to bless others, but I got the reward. I mean, these are my brothers. I be myself without judging. I be anything I bring to them, they can handle it. They can hold space for anything. So I want to change a lot of guys who are isolated alone. Sometimes we have a and we love to party, but we love doing our work. So, with that, I'm done.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. And Craig, any last thoughts?
I can't top that. I think Art said exactly what I would say. Thank you, Art.
Yeah.
So all the information about the barrier-free movement, the website, the upcoming training event this winter, early winter, will be in the show notes. Thank you, Mike, Dee, Craig, Paul, Art, and Mark for showing up and representing. And Paul's going to have the last word because he needs to drop an F-bomb in the space before we stop the recording. And there it is. An
Yeah.
F-bomb in the space.
Hey,
Blessings, you brothers. Thank you for being here.
blessings.
Thank you, Boysen. Appreciate you.
Thanks,
Bye,
boys.
guys. You're welcome.
Thanks, Boysen.
Talk soon.
Thanks. That was
Thanks,
fun. That
Boysen.
was fun.
Hey, it's Boysen. On the Mankind podcast, we've brought some incredible guests on to talk about the importance of doing the work to improve our mental and emotional health. And here's the truth. Multiple times over the last 25 years, I've had the help of one-on-one work with some amazing therapists. For me, for my wife, for both of us as adoptive parents, and for our kids. The Mankind Project and Men's Group, though awesome, are not a substitute for professional mental health support. And so I'm thrilled that the Mankind Podcast now has BetterHelp as a sponsor for the show. BetterHelp works online. It asks you what you're working on and then matches you for live one-on-one sessions with a licensed therapist, someone trained to work with you, listen, and offer helpful insights. I'm using BetterHelp. It's super easy, and I like what I'm getting. If getting one-on-one support in the comfort of your own space feels like a good direction for you, I invite you to check it out. Go to the link in the show notes or betterhelp.com/mankind. And if you sign up, you'll get 10% off your first month of therapy.